Hello, my soccer universe. My name is Roland and this is Football Talk. And what are we talking about in this episode? It is, of course, the Champions League, the return of the Champions League. Plenty of action to sink our teeth into. However, there were also results outside of the Champions League. I'm noting Cup round, 3 games. 3 games in the Cup in Austria, where Wolfsburg easily won 5-0 away at Reichenau in Innsbruck. Then Sturm Graz at Rötis 2-0, never in doubt, and Rapid 2-1. A little bit shaky and not happy faces for the table toppers in the Austrian League. 2-1 at Oberwart, so all the favorites are through to the next round. And maybe we'll talk about the draw in the next episode when I review the round that is coming up with a big Linz derby in there as well. But that's the future. We also had a makeup game in the Netherlands, Feyenoord winning 2-0, and so they are now rising towards the top as well. But I really want to focus in this episode on the Champions League. It's all about the Champions League. And boy, what a week it was. And yes, can I just say, I'm really sorry that my preview video for the Champions League, I mean, most of the stuff is still valid in there, but my preview video didn't manage to post ahead of the kickoff of the first games. And why was that? Because my internet here is crap. Absolute crap, especially when it's raining. And yeah, I started uploading I think around 3 p.m. and usually it's then easily up by 4 p.m. Was not meant to happen. Was not meant to happen. And so yeah, I actually didn't see the first matches because I was out on dinner with my colleagues, and yeah, and then I realized it was not up there. I'm really sorry about that one. As I said, I think stuff is still valid, but yeah, I have to do better. But it was so stressful over the past few days that I'm actually happy it got out and I could make this video. One thing that I forgot to say, we're coming into the games and everything that happened, but one thing that I forgot to say is this is probably one of the most diverse Champions Leagues that I can ever remember. I mean, Bodø Glimt for qualifying for the first time, you know, we're finally having Champions League north of the Arctic Circle, but that almost was expected. But did anyone expect Kairat all the way over in Kazakhstan? It's the longest away trip that we ever had in the Champions League. And then there's also the little matter of Karabakh in there, who also have not been in the Champions League for a while, and they actually made a dent in this competition. Both of these far eastern teams had to go to Lisbon. One of them was successful. Then add to that Paphos, a team that we've never heard of until recently, and Union Saint-Gillois. Yes, we have heard them. They have made some noise in the Europa League and so on, but we've never seen them in the Champions League. They're first-time Belgian champions and also made it in. Speaking of the Belgians, the 2 Belgian teams are, at least to my model, but if I look at the overall results, the big winners of this Champions League round. Both of them got wins. Both of them got convincing wins against good class opponents. I mean, Union Saint-Gilloise beating PSV away from home. It's not something I had necessarily on my bingo card. And same thing goes for Club Brugge, just completely destroying Monaco. Absolute sensational. But if I look now at kind of the bigger nations, the English teams overall did well, I would say. I think they all won except for Newcastle. No, Chelsea also didn't win, so kind of a mixed result. The German teams did surprisingly well. I mean, there's only 4 German teams. We have 2 wins and 2 draws, and one of them was probably one of the funnest draws that you will ever see, but also defending. And that happened in Italy, the home of defending. But yeah, we have a Frankfurt first leader in the league phase table. And let me tell this straight up. You will see if you're watching this on YouTube, you won't see it if you're, of course, listening only to the audio. But I will display the results and I will display the current standings. But the current standings don't tell us all that much. We'll talk about what this all could mean a little bit later as well. But for now, I think not much has changed, although we had, I would say, a couple of upsets, but nothing really monumental. So German teams did well, Belgian teams did well, English teams so on. So I also say the Italian teams, yeah. So and the Spanish teams, yeah, are also very mixed. I mean, the 2 big names got wins, but everyone else did lose. So also not good week for Spain. At least Italy got 1 win, and then yeah, a couple of losses. against superior teams, to be fair, and then the crazy game in Turin that made up for it. But if you ask me, the biggest winner were we, the spectators, especially if you don't follow a certain team, because honestly, it was fun. We had on average in those opening 18 games over 3.7 goals per game score. I think it's something like 3.722 goals per game. That is crazy. I mean, this comes because there are some lopsided results, and there is a huge difference in the quality of teams that usually improves goals. The closer match teams are, the tighter it is, but it actually makes it fun. And I would say Juve and Dortmund are closely matched and gave us the game of the round, and that was definitely fun to see. I want to go through the games more or less in chronological order because, it is how I'm rolling. And I want to say a little bit to every game, but, not every game will get the same attention to it. I want to start with actually quite a big opening game, which is Athletic Club against Arsenal. While Athletic Club could keep the game relatively open from what I saw from the highlights, I didn't see the game live. It then took Martinelli goal in the 72nd minute and Trossard in the 87th minute to give Arsenal the win. They were overall the better team, and so they deserved the win. And without Nico Williams, you take away a lot of Athletic Club's power already. And it's curious that it's the old guard, Martinelli and Trossard, not the new signings that get the points done for Arsenal. At the same time, as I said, we had the duel between the Low Country champions, PSV against Union Saint-Gillois. And Union Saint-Gillois is a team that I actually really would like to get a jersey of, because they are one of the most interesting teams in Europe. And yes, Lask beat them at one point. That should be the jersey I should get, although it's a blue one, not a yellow one. Be it as it may, the last European win for Lask, and I was there. In any case, they got the job done early. First with David penalty in the 9th minute, then El Hadj in the 39th, only a 2-0 lead. And then McAllister, the brother of Liverpool's McAllister, makes it 3-0, and PSV were shell-shocked, more or less. Van Bommel pulls one back late, but that is a little bit of a surprise result, because you always think that the Eredivisie should be the better team than the Belgian Pro League, but maybe not that quite. Dutch teams did not do well this round, but there are only two in there as well. Then one of the biggest shocks was, of course, Benfica having, after 60 minutes, a 2-0 lead over Karabakh. Berenguer and Pavlidis scoring. However, Karabakh worked themselves into the game and outplayed Benfica largely. This was not a lucky smash and grab come from behind win. This was a full deserver. Leandro Andrade in the 30th pulls one back, and then just right after half, Duran gets scores level, and late on Kashchuk makes it 3-2. In the immediate aftermath, we saw Bruno Lage send his marching orders by Benfica, and guess who's coming in? Jose Mourinho. I know he has been working at Benfica under Brian Robson 25 years ago as a translator, assistant coach, however you want to do it, but he didn't get the job back then. Went to Porto, the eternal rivals, not directly, there was a little bit of a detour in between, but went to the eternal rivals Porto. Is becoming an absolute legend there, winning the Champions League, winning the Europa League. He is the star on the horizon. Goes to Chelsea, we know all his stories, and now he comes back to Benfica. And just on the weekend, my buddy, who is a huge Porto fan, told me he was at Porto and got a huge standing ovation there. I think it's his last one, because now he's going for a team that Porto fans really can't stand. Huge rivalry there. It's gonna be get your popcorn stuff. I would say it definitely raises the profile of the Portuguese league. What it will do for Benfica, I'm not so sure. I mean, and I also hear there were talks about Ruben Amorim joining Benfica. He has a huge Benfica past, but that would also be quite interesting. I mean, he wants to get fired from United. That much I can definitely tell. And then we're at the crazy one. Then we had the absolute craziest game. I mean, Juve 4, Dortmund 4 is something that was not in the cards, especially as it was 0-0 at half-time. And what's the craziest thing about it? It was not that there were 8 goals scored in the second half and that defending was very much optional and that Dortmund let go of a 2-goal lead in stoppage time. I mean, in the 93rd minute, they still had a 4-2 lead and it ends 4-4. It's also not crazy that Vlahovic, that Juve wanted to dump all summer long, is now the big star and scoring to the extent that I would say that probably teams like Arsenal and so on should have looked into signing Vlahovic and not, leaving him at Juventus. It's really, really a weird story. But to me, the weirdest fact is that the two coaches, Igor Tudor and Niko Kovac, actually have played each other 25 years ago. Also, I think on the first match day of the Champions League. HSV, Hamburg against Juventus. It ended in a 4-4 draw, and both of these were scoring. I mean, what is that of a weird coincidence? That's, to me, is one of the weirdest facts. The game itself, I mean, first half, forget about it. The second half, everything open. Most goals even scoring kind of from outside the box. Again, and Yildiz goal to equalize for the first time for you was really nice. And then there was this weird period for 4 minutes, 63rd, 65th, 67th, where it was 1-1. Then Mecha reestablishes the lead for Dortmund, and Vlahovic gets his equalizer. And then, Couto, Benzebaini scoring the penalty. And have you seen Serhou Guirassí's jersey in the second half? Dortmund, instead of Guirassy, Dortmund. Really, really. This is probably a very prized asset for now and might become a very popular item in the fan shop. And then stoppage time. Vlahovic again scores first the equalizer and then sets up Lloyd Kelly. Lloyd Kelly! He scores 2 games in a row in absolute mad circumstances. I mean, Juve are fun for now, but I have to say, they need to sort their defense. I mean, you cannot give up 3 to Inter and not 4 to Dortmund. On the Dortmund side, I mean, the 2 goals, those were gifts to Juventus. They threw away everything. So, while it was fun to watch, if you are a fan or if you look at it from a little bit more of a constructive point of view, awful. So many errors. But, it's an error sport, so makes it definitely fun. Then we had Real Madrid, thanks to 2 penalties, beating OM. And honestly, yes, they should have led after 10 minutes, maybe 2 or 3 goals. But it's then Timothy Weah who gives them the lead. Gives Marseille the lead. And at that point, then the game was rather level. And yes, the first penalty, Mbappé converting in the 20th minute, that was fair. But Marseille were well in the game. Then even Dani Carvajal is sent off for a headbutt. On one side, on the other side, what Rulli is doing is equally despicable. I think he should have also walked for just simulating and getting a player sent off. Yes, it was a headbutt. Should be a red card. But what Rulli is doing should also be punished. He should not be getting away with this one, at least my opinion. But I guess the referee had that in mind, and that he is, whistling at the Bernabeu and, the big cloud of Real Madrid, because the penalty that won it for Real Madrid is never in the world a penalty. And I'm really wondering, I mean, handball is anyway already a huge problem in football because no one knows what's a handball anymore. But that then VAR is going so granular in there and saying, this was something. He's falling down, he's bracing himself, and the arms are not flailing. I mean, if you fall down, should he fall down like that? Like a straight to the floor, get concussed? I mean, all common sense is gone from that handball rule. I really have to say, and it really does annoy me. Then we had Spurs against Villarreal 1-0. It was an own goal in the 4th minute. Not a great game overall, but got the job done. Also another great game was the Greek Cypriot duel between Olympiacos and Paphos. Bruno got a yellow red in the 26th minute, and then Paphos, I mean, they did not actually hunker down all that much. They actually tried to still play some stuff, but it's a game that Olympiacos should have won, but had a hard time finding chances, and when they got chances, it was easily saved by the goalie or it went wide. So overall, a rather disappointing performance of a game that I actually expected a little bit more of, but then at least the Slavia Bodø Glimt was quite fun, and it was the Mboji game. Mboji, a Senegalese defender, scored the opening goal for Slavia. Slavia were mostly the better team. I was a little bit surprised. It was actually a flat performance by Bodø Glimt, but they could have gotten equalizer in the 54th minute when Basic came on and was then fouled by Mboji. Again, the guy who just had scored the goal gives the penalty away, and I could see an argument. I mean, in modern times it's a penalty, but I could see an argument that this probably shouldn't be a penalty. Whatever, Höch steps up and is easily saved by Slavia's goalkeeper, and then Mboji in the 74th minute makes it 2-0. So Slavia actually had some chances. a little bit out of nowhere, Bassi pulls one back and then Fett in the 90th minute salvages a point for the Norwegians in a duel of outsiders. And honestly, while I actually really like the Bodø Glimt story overall, given that I was just in Prague at Slavia, and Slavia is any of the Czech teams, honestly, they have such huge history in a European context, stretching back over 100 years. Would have been fun to actually them getting a win. But it was a fun game, and overall, I think it was a lucky draw for Bodø Glimt, but in the end, I think they also, in a way, deserved it. Then in the late games, Inter had no trouble at Ajax. Marcus Thuram scoring just before and just after the half, and then they shut the game down. This was a replay of a final from the early 70s. And we had quite a few final replays. I mean, the Juve Dortmund was, of course, from the 97 final. I think Ajax Inter was in 71, the final. No, in 71, this was in 72, the final of the then European Cup, which of course Ajax won. Meanwhile, the teams are a little bit going different ways, although, I always have to think that Ajax have the potential to get back on track as well. In another rematch, this time from 2012 final, there's some twos in there, I would say. Bayern beat Chelsea, exacting some revenge for a game that I think really broke Bayern. But, this was again the spark that they needed to win the Champions League then the following year. And honestly, this was very much Bayern outplaying Chelsea. They had a 2-0 lead, Chalobah scoring an own goal and Harry Kane scoring a brace. Palmer made it a little bit tight in the 29th minute, and he was the outstanding player. He also scored then very late on, but it wasn't disallowed for an offside. But I think this was all Bayern's night in the only game that was not broadcast here on Austrian Sky, but rather on Canal Plus. And I just hate that it's all so fragmented. Can I just say that? I will cancel my Canal Plus subscription because I really don't want to encourage them to do more shit like that, honestly. Then we had a crazy game between Liverpool and Atletico Madrid. Not a rematch, but one of the better games, I gotta say, on this entire match day. Liverpool early on, after 6 minutes, already led 2-0. It was a nice Salah free kick that was deflected into net by Robertson. And then Salah himself goes through 3 Atleti defenders, and it is 2-0. And Liverpool probably could have led by 3 and then kind of tried to cruise. Marcos Llorente, who only scores at Anfield. Seemingly only scores at Anfield. I mean, he has now, after the game, he scored also the equalizer. He has now, of his 7 Champions League goals, scored 4 at Anfield. That's pretty crazy, I gotta say. So he gets the goal to cut back the lead. I think that Liverpool had more chances to make it 3-1, but in the 81st minute, Llorente equalized. Another really nicely taken shot. And then Liverpool does what Liverpool does this season. It's a corner in by Szoboszlai, and Van Dijk heads it in. Really great header, and Liverpool again win. Simeone goes berserk, arguing with a fan, and gets sent off for that as well. And then there was a nasty incident that one of the Atleti staff spat at said fan. I don't know what was said, blah blah blah, and yeah, Simeone just has to take that one, I guess. And let's end it at that rather unpleasant thing, to be honest. And then champions PSG, pretty impressive, 4-0 over Atalanta. I know this is not the Atalanta that we're used to because they're now under Juric, but it's still a capable Atalanta team, completely taken to the sword by PSG, who scored the first goal on Wednesday evening through Marquinhos. Right thereafter, then it was Liverpool scoring the opener. Kvara adds another one. Barcola even has a penalty saved. Nuno mentioned Ramos add 2 more. This could have been 6-7. This was really, especially in the first half, the PSG that we know from last season. And there's no Desiree Doué, no Dembélé. So rather impressive stuff from the Parisians. And they're a sight to watch. I don't think they will win it this year again because repeat champions are not very likely. But they have made here a bit of a statement. And then a rare Thursday slot, and I'm not sure if I like this opening full week for the Champions League. Do we really need that? Well, I guess it is what it is. It was Club Brugge against Monaco, and Monaco had a huge chance to take the lead, but Akliouche penalty was weakly taken and was saved by Mignolet, who had to come off right afterwards as well due to an injury. And then Club Brugge actually took the initiative, got better into the match, and towards the end, in the last 15 minutes of the first half, completely took Monaco apart. Resoldi, Onyedika, and Van Aken scoring. Who else? Hans Van Aken is meanwhile Champions League royalty, usually scoring in the Champions League. Diakon makes any four. I actually thought they had scored a fifth one, but very low now. Ansu Fati, yes, Ansu Fati. We haven't heard of him in a long time as well. Pulled one back, but it was rather impressive what Club Brugge were showing. Monaco will have a hard time qualifying for the next round if they continue like that. And then Leverkusen, a rather flat performance. I mean, were deservedly down 1-0 through a Larsen goal at Copenhagen. They get the equals in the 82nd minute through a Grimaldo. Beautiful Grimaldo free kick. In the second half, they were playing better, but I think in the first half, Copenhagen really did everything to deserve the win. Robert then gets the go-ahead goal in the 87th minute before it's an Echeverri pass in that Hatzidiakos deflects into his own net to salvage a point for Leverkusen. But this feels like, although during the game you would not have thought that Copenhagen will lose this game, but ahead of the game probably they would have taken the point. So yeah, it was definitely 0.1 for Leverkusen after that match. Then the late games. Eintracht Frankfurt looking really in trouble early on because they get caught out on a counter-attack, Akgün scoring in the 8th minute. Then there was a really nice free kick where Sané finds, what's his name? Baris towards the left, who skies it. I mean, he had an open shot there. No one was watching, and it was actually lucky for Frankfurt that this was not being a penalty. On the other side, I don't think it was a foul either. I think it was a handball given. So maybe they were unlucky that this free kick was given. But then Sanchez makes an own goal in the 37th minute and everything breaks for Galatasaray. Very fragile team. Özün and Burkhardt in stoppage time of the first half add 2 more and it's 3-1 and Frankfurt are in full control. Burkhardt and Ansgar Knauf adding 2 more and sending Eintracht Frankfurt to the top of the league table ahead of PSG. After one game, we know that this means not much, but it was impressive by Eintracht Frankfurt, who at least put a little bit of a stone into maybe march into the knockout stage. I was really looking forward to City against Napoli, but I also thought this has high potential for not becoming a big game either. Because it will be like last year when City took on Inter, that it will be kind of a blah game because one team will hunker down, and this is what happened, or because it will get lopsided. Well, both of it kind of happened. I mean, Napoli brought, of course, De Bruyne, got huge standing ovation from the City crowd, but then he also had to come off in the 26th minute already because Di Lorenzo earned himself a red card by taking down Haaland. He was going for the ball, he didn't get the ball, Haaland would have been through. So I guess the red card is alright, but that killed the game. And as nice as those Napoli jerseys were, that was the only thing nice about Napoli. They kept it tight, but then Haaland in the 56th minute heads it in, and Jeremy Doku just a couple of minutes later makes it 2-0. Not really much to talk home about in this match, where, as I said, I expect a whole lot from, but yeah, going down to 10 men didn't help Napoli and just killed the game in a way. Newcastle gave it their all against the Barcelona team that played in their new orange jerseys. I wonder, couldn't have Barcelona played in the home jerseys as well? I guess the dark pants with Newcastle would not have worked. So yeah, okay, I take the orange for whatever it is. It was a tight game, but in the second half, then Barcelona had the class shining through, and it was Marcus Rashford who scored a brace in the 58th and 67th minute. First one assist by Koundé, the second one an individual effort. Quite the masterclass. Yes, Gordon then pulled one back in the 90th minute, but they couldn't find an equalizer. The crowd was up for it. Not sure that Newcastle were up for the Champions League. And Barcelona, you know, was maybe not a glorious win, but you could see that the class of theirs is just bigger than Newcastle's. That one was clear from the get-go. Sporting also had some hard time with Kairat. Hjulmand, really bad miss of a penalty. I mean, so weakly taken. Was an easy save in the 21st minute, but then they worked on Kairat to break them down, and Trincao in the 44th minute finally finds the breakthrough, and then it kind of fell apart in the second half. Trincao, Alisson Santos and Quenda, 65th to 68th. It was just goal, and you really thought that, yeah, maybe Sporting will be top of the table. If they continue that, well, at least Kairat pull one back. I think the 4-0, 5-0 would not have been reflective of how that game went overall. Okay, after all this madness, let's Look at the expected standing of all has changed. Not much, honestly, and that was not to be expected. I mean, Chelsea fell out of the top 8. Barcelona overtook Liverpool because Barcelona got the better win in a way. They won away from home. Liverpool won at home. So, in that sense, but it's still very tight. It's still Arsenal, the favorites of winning the league phase, which I find quite interesting. If you look at just the shading of who is going into the top 8, it is top 9 that is battling for these 8 spots, but it might all change, of course. There's plenty of shifting around below that. We see that the Belgian Club Brugge going up until 18th point and place, and if we go into the second page, we also see Union Saint-Gillois make it out of the the teams that are eliminated, making it in, whereas OM fall out. Plenty of shifting and turning, but doesn't really mean all that much. We have to wait a little bit later. I think most interesting as always is the tournament bracket that would come out of that one, but even there, it may look like that, it might not look like that, and I still think that last season has shown. I mean, Europa League Conference League, we saw that highly seeded teams actually won that one, so it probably is an advantage to skip the round, but then PSG won the Champions League coming through the playoff round, and if it all works and you beat the big teams, then of course you can win the Champions League as well. I think the most interesting thing is, of course, looking at the overall favorites, and now Arsenal ahead of Liverpool. Arsenal won, of course, at Atleti Club, much unchanged except Spurs ahead of Napoli, but we already said it. I think at most Bayern, and I have to say I was quite dismissive of Bayern in my preview. Now, having seen Bayern against Chelsea, I probably might shift my tone a little bit and said, I could see them being in the circle of the favorites, at least offensively. They look quite good. But then on the other side, Bayern always look good at the beginning of the season. The question is always if they can carry it through, and that's where I'm not quite certain. In 2 weeks' time, roughly, we have the next set of matches, and let's look at a few. This time it's only Tuesday, Wednesday, so makes it a little bit easier. Atalanta, Club Brugge, knives are out. Club Brugge eliminated Atalanta not too long ago, and Real Madrid have to make the long trip to Kairat. So I guess that's one that many will look out for. Atletico Madrid, Frankfurt sounds interesting. Atletico Madrid definitely will need that win there. Chelsea, Benfica, Mourinho going back to Stamford Bridge. Interesting for sure. Bodø Glimt Spurs, that's a replay of the semi-final of last year's Europa League. Galatasaray, Liverpool. Yeah, Liverpool going to Turkey. They won a Champions League there, or did they? As a Milan fan, I want to forget about that very quickly. But, I could see Liverpool winning there as well. Inter against Slavia. I remember a match there. The Slavia gave them a bit more trouble, but Inter is too good. I like a traditional duel like OM against Ajax more than most of the other things. And Pafos take on Bayern Munich. Then on Wednesday, the opening games, I have to say a little bit meh. Karabakh against Copenhagen. I don't know if this will be interesting. Union Saint-Gillois against Newcastle, probably a little bit more. This is where we'll see how good USG actually are. Monaco take on City, hard one. Leverkusen against PSV. PSV, former coach Peter Bosch of Leverkusen. So, interesting for sure. Dortmund and Athletic Club, I think it could be atmospheric for sure. Arsenal Olympiacos, one-sided match. Although, Marinakis, we'll see. The big one, of course, Barcelona PSG. That was the final that we all wanted to see. I think those two teams met in a final of a Cup Winners' Cup in '97, where Barcelona won thanks to an original Ronaldo penalty. Napoli against Sporting, 3 points must for Napoli, although Sporting could be a dangerous team. And then Villarreal Juventus. I remember that Vlahovic debuted at Villarreal, so maybe undervalued this one. Maybe not the great matches that we had in the first week, but UEFA by design opens up with some big name matches. But we get Barcelona against PSG. The only question will be, where will it be played? Montjuic, or will it be in the Nou Camp at reduced capacity? We shall see. Well, this ends my long trip through Europe. This time only one competition, but it was all over Europe. I have to say I enjoyed this. It is not very consequential what's happening right now. We know that the league phase, ever since it's expanded, it has nice matchups in there, but the impact is not really measurable. In a group game, you could actually see really some impact happening, especially the way it was set up, although I would do the setup for a group stage a little bit differently. Here in the league phase, yeah, it's all a little bit murky and it's really hard to measure. But on the other side, if we get entertaining stuff and teams are not as defensive from the get-go, and they clearly weren't, that also makes it rather exciting. And maybe Zlatan in the video at the draw was right. It's all better, and it was his idea. I doubt that it was his idea, but I like Zlatan, even though he does some crap at Milan at the moment. Or does he do anything at Milan even? But different story for a different podcast episode. Please let me know your thoughts of what you thought about the first week of Champions League action. Next week is Europa League, and then in 2 weeks we have all 3 competitions at once. So drop a line below. Please give me a thumbs up or leave a comment also. To lift this episode a little bit more. I would be really happy if you could leave also a review if you're listening this on a podcast app, and also tell a friend if you enjoyed this episode. Maybe a friend will enjoy that one too. Be it as it may, keep on watching the beautiful game, and I'll talk to you soon about more things in my soccer universe. Bye.